If you're struggling with mind-altering substances, meaning if you struggle with pretty much abusing them, and it causes you to not be as happy as you want to be, it sort of causes things to be disrupted, making it harder to grow where you want to go. Well, video is for you. I made this video for people who are struggling with addiction in some way, whatever that addiction is. Because ultimately, I think we can all agree, addiction is not a fun thing. And at times it's pretty hard to break free from it, isn't it? Well, I think this message might help you think about it a little differently, or give you some ideas on how you can navigate yourself through the addiction that you're suffering from, and hopefully find a way of either sobriety or at least a lot more balance for yourself as you move through this wonderful life experience together with everyone else. I feel like this could be a very interesting topic to talk about from a more metaphysical point of view when we talk about addiction. Because there's many people that are struggling with addiction. I personally myself struggle with it in my own way. With me it was alcohol, as I briefly mentioned in a previous video. With others it might be more illegal drugs, or it might perhaps even be medication. People trying to get help to feel better. They go to a doctor, for example, and they prescribe them medication, sometimes very strong medication, to alter their states of mind, to feel better. And what happens? For many of these people, whether they want to admit this or not, but I've talked to some over the years in my life, many of them do admit they suffer these severe cases of withdrawal because of the medication. At the one hand, it helps them to feel better. At the other hand, it actually makes them feel worse. How could you ever live a happy, fulfilled life living in that way? Like, we have to find that middle way, that sort of way where we can navigate through life without all these mental and emotional extremes, these mind-altering extremes that we indulge in at times. Some people even aren't even aware that this is happening. They might take drugs or alcohol and they think it's alright. Well, they might think it's alright because they're not doing crazy stuff when they're using it. But sooner or later, if they don't watch out, many of us get caught into a trap. I think that is how addicts are made, in a way. You know, the old saying, we escape reality. We try to escape reality. We try to feel better because our lives are not to our likings. Now the solution would be to change your life. But in order to change our lives into something better, we are going to have to change our lives. Think about it. If we don't make the effort to change it, how will it ever improve? And that is a cycle that we end up in. We keep using the same drugs. We keep repeating the same pattern, while at the same time complaining and wondering, why isn't stuff improving for me? Well, I think it can improve, but it doesn't mean it's easy, especially with this subject. It is not easy at times, I'm gonna admit. At times I feel like, you know, is there any hope to ever be free from this strange compulsion at times of wanting to relapse? Well, I want you to know that even though it might seem you will never be free, together perhaps we can make something great happen, regardless of the setbacks we have in life. So what happened to me earlier, in general, regularly I catch myself really thinking to myself, you know, I wish I could take a drug. And then I ask myself, well, why is that? Well, why is that? Because I don't feel good. That's what I reasoned at the time. It's like, I don't feel so good. I'm not happy at times. And then you might reason, because you're not happy, let's take a substance in order to become happy, right? Because if you take the drugs or alcohol, you'll feel happier for a couple of hours at least. What happens afterwards? Well, you go into withdrawal. What happens during the withdrawal? Well, a lot of people feel anxiety, depression. They feel all sorts of negative emotions because the whole body itself is withdrawn from a poison. And the weird part is, we keep repeating it. So this seems to indicate that we need to find a sort of basis of balance sooner or later if we want to escape our addiction. We need to find a balance from which we can operate more positively, more positively, because if that is missing, it's so easy to go back to superficial means, artificial means, physical means to temporarily feel good. But all the stuff that we're using is from a temporary realm. You see what's happening here? It's pretty interesting. We're using things of this world in order to feel better, even though they're temporary, so we can never find the real satisfaction that we could have and we're supposed to experience because of being a human, having a consciousness, having emotions. If we can figure out a way to feel better in the moment, even though it doesn't have to mean being happy, just feeling a little better, instead of only focusing on that negativity and that negative emotional state that we're in that is tempting us to do something drastic, well then, I think we are able to grow. Slowly but surely, into a greater direction. You'll be able to grow, slowly but surely, towards a better life for yourself. Because ultimately, I think that's what we all want. That's behind addiction, that escape, that need to escape reality. But if reality was to your liking, would you still want to escape it? Obviously you wouldn't want to escape reality if it's to your liking, right? So this takes a lot of consideration in the case for us when we're suffering from addiction. Whatever that addiction is. I don't judge. Hopefully you don't judge people with addiction, because it's a tricky thing. It's not just being in that place where you're like, let me do something stupid on purpose necessarily. You're literally compelled to do it because you have been trained and literally programmed, because you don't become an addict instantly. It's like a pattern that slowly grows on you over time, more and more stronger. So then the idea of becoming a happier person, finding fulfillment without drugs involved, well then it suddenly becomes difficult. Why? Because you have to retrain your mind. That's basically behind all of it. How do you retrain your mind? Well, we have to understand. Just like learning a language, you don't learn it instantly, it happens gradually, as long as you stay focused on learning it. So as long as we stay focused on learning the skills to navigate through our lives with a sober mind, well then, we're gonna go towards a better direction automatically. It doesn't mean that life will be easy, because at times for me it's not easy, even though I might share all sorts of interesting things concerning consciousness. But that doesn't mean that I'm exempt from any of the negativity myself. At times I feel bad. I almost want to beat up on myself. I feel like giving up at times. But you know something? The more I keep sharing these ideas and the more I look into this world, the more I realize people really need this information. They really need to hear that there's hope for them. And what better way to show people that there's hope for them by sharing and showing them that there is hope for them, because you know where they're coming from. Now this leads to another concept that I really start to realize myself, is that if you're an addict, if you're struggling with something, if you've quit but you relapsed, no matter how long you were able to quit, and no matter if you relapsed, as an addict itself, if you are at that point you want to change that part of your life, you can actually be a very beneficial force to this world. And being a beneficial force to this world would automatically mean that the desire to escape reality becomes most likely, for most people, weaker. And why is that? Because a lot of addicts also have low self-confidence. They don't think they're good people in a way. Maybe you don't recognize this. What I'm getting at is, we feel we might not be worthy of having a good life. But the fact that you can imagine having a good life means you are worthy. The universe gave you the power to make something great out of your life. The problem is we gotta learn it. More often than not, we're not raised with these ideas, so we have to learn it. But as you take this serious, even in your addiction, even during relapses, whatever, if you take these ideas serious, someday they're gonna stick with you. And then when they start sticking with you, you can work with them. And you can start to help others, or at least tell them genuinely and authentically, and from a place of being serious, that there is hope for them. There's hope for you if you're suffering from addiction. Now the solution to addiction, very simply, is to build a new life for yourself. And if you watched my videos in the past, I already am hinting at how you can build a new life for yourself simply by learning to work with your own mind. As long as you haven't lost your mind due to your addiction, at least you'll still be in a place to make something great out of it. So whatever you're suffering from, suffering comes in all sorts of ways. And people in addiction suffer in all sorts of ways. It's not the exact same reason for everyone that they became addicted. But it is usually the same reason for everyone that they stay addicted, which is to keep escaping negativity. Yet negative emotions are part of life. So in a way, it's like we have to relearn to accept that feeling bad is a part of life. And it doesn't mean you're broken if you feel bad. Perhaps that's what you needed to hear. Is that if you feel bad, you have to remember you're not broken at all. Even though people might not like it when you feel bad, they might push you away, they might not want to deal with you at the time. But don't take that personally, because dealing with negative people, if it goes on for too long, it just, it tires them, you get tired, you're like, screw this shit. I'd rather want to walk away from this person for a bit. And then you might reason, there's something wrong with me, because I can never make things work with people. Well, there's nothing wrong with you at all. There is something wrong, though, about staying negative. Or perhaps you could say about doing it deliberately, being negative deliberately with an intent to hurt. There's something wrong with that, you could reason. But if it just happens because you're just feeling bad, it's part of life. And hopefully you don't do something drastic, because what happens again is that because the bad feelings are so strong, it can also mean, it actually means that your positive emotions can also be very strong. They suddenly transform your whole life. You probably have days where you feel good, or at least you can remember days you felt great. And you kind of want to feel like that all the time, don't you? But you can never do that, because life is in a constant state of motion and change. It's like a river of good and positive, and you constantly flow through them until, you leave this life. So what are we meant to do in these two polarities? What we're meant to do, I think, is to both embrace the good times and bad times and try to extract from them the very things that can help us ourselves make sure that we keep improving our lives and grow in the direction that we really want to go. Instead of numbing the mind, you learn to expand and exercise your mind. And that is the power that was given to you in order to create something beautiful for yourself and ultimately the whole world. So I think that's the basis of this whole video, is that first of all, thinking that there's something wrong with you is kind of bad, but there's a tendency to do it. I've seen it with myself and others who are addicted to certain things, substances. There's always this tendency to beat yourself up over it the next day or during withdrawal. And if you keep repeating that pattern for years on end, well, you can see how it starts breaking down your self-confidence. It starts to create a sort of permanent negative self-image about yourself, and it keeps the cycle of addiction alive within your very being. But if we could learn to look at it from a more positive angle and try to extract how we could use our life experiences, even if they were bad or horrible throughout your life, if you can figure out a way how to use them to the benefit not only of yourself, but for others in the world, well then slowly but surely you start to grow into a better reality. Then you start growing towards a place where you don't feel the need anymore to escape reality, because that is ultimately behind any addiction that we have. We want to escape something. Instead of escaping stuff, let us start creating something greater together. And with these ideas, we can do it. And with that being said, never forget that we are the dreamers.